Hello and welcome to Pivot Point DFS, presented by FanDuel on the Believe Network, part of the Old Man Squad Sports Network. I am your host, Keith Cork, and I am here to break down another NBA slate for you guys. This would be the Wednesday, December 3rd slate, which is a 9-game main slate on DraftKings. And yeah, I went through this. Definitely some interesting, takes here. Definitely a lot of information we're still waiting on for these games. So, take this with a grain of salt. It is, of course, it's almost morning right at this point. It's 12:30 at night, Central Time on Tuesday night. So, obviously things will change by the time we tip off on Wednesday evening. But I was happy on the last slate that I did with you guys to get a hit. Finally, it took me, 6 shows now to get a hit, but let's go ahead and break it down and take a look. We won't spend too long on this, but let's just go through it. Here was my lineup I ended up with. Obviously, I hit the main cash line here, so I won $60 on my $40 investment, my $40 entry fee. My point guard, Emmanuel Quickly, shooting guard, Donovan Mitchell, Ayadisumu, Simone Fontecchio, Tristan Vucevic, Josh Giddey, Derek Queen, and Norm Powell rounds up my lineup there. This was from about almost 2 weeks ago at this point. So no worries if you didn't remember that podcast. If you don't remember, my top plays from that podcast that I called were Emmanuel Quickly, who I did play. He was 30.4% owned. He hit 5.3x value for us, so 35.5 points on 6.7K salary. So that was all fine and dandy. It wasn't amazing or anything like that. It would have been better had they not been blowing out the lowly Washington Wizards. But he did get a little bit of an early seat, so he didn't hit like 40 or 45 points for us, unfortunately, but that's okay. Benedict Mathurin was another call of mine. I did not play him in my lineup, but I did. He was 22.1% owned, so not like super contrarian or anything like that. 5.7x value was the value he hit there, which was really good. 36.25 fantasy points on 6.4K salary. So that's pretty darn good. Not bad at all. I would have rather had him than Simone Fontecchio, of course. He scored a little bit more, was a little bit cheaper. Or I'm sorry, rather than Emmanuel Quickly. Simone Fontecchio was the other guy that I said was a core play of mine. 18.9% owned. I did end up having him in my lineup here. 5x value at 17.5 fantasy points at 3.5K salary. So he did what he had to do. Not spectacular, but good call. No issues there at all. Derek Queen was another one. This one was easy. 61.6% owned on the slate, so nearly everybody had him. 8.5x value, 46.75 DK points on 5.5K salary, so that was a smash play. Again, it wasn't difficult to get to, though. Cameron Johnson, I could not find anywhere in anyone's lineups to tell you what percentage owned he was here. So that leads me to believe he was probably around like 2% or under. So very low owned. Cam Johnson would have been a nice pivot, but he only hit 4.2x value. He had 20.8 points on 5K salary. Those are my top plays from the last podcast. I did not play Cam Johnson either. And again, these podcasts I released the night before. A lot changes by the time tip-off happens. So, in order to make swaps and fit people into my lineups that I need to or want to fit in, I have to swap some people out. So I don't always end up with the people that I originally wanted to play. But I did end up with most of them, and they did hit up my value. So we ended up obviously hitting the money line here. My two best calls or my best plays for the slate were probably Ayadisumu, who was only 9.1% owned. And he hit, looks like over 6x value, almost 7x value there. And then Donovan Mitchell was only 14.9% owned, and he ended up having a really good game as well, 52.25 DK points on 9.3K salary. So all in all, pretty good. Looking at the winning lineups, the guys I missed out on were Jeremiah Fears. He was like 3% owned. Let me take a quick look here. Jeremiah Fears, 3.1% owned, and he ended up getting 4.25 DK points on 4.9K salary. And then Anthony Edwards was only 5.7% owned, and he absolutely smashed it in a 1-point loss to the Suns on that night. 63.25 DK points on 9.2K salary. So all in all, a good night for me. Obviously we hit the money line, so we can't complain there. But obviously we want more, right? We want to try to win the overall prize pool, and that's what we're going to try to do with this upcoming Wednesday slate, which I will share with you now. And we'll get into this and talk game by game here. Try to zoom through and give you guys my insights for each one. Just early insights here. So first off, we got the Spurs in the Orlando Magic. Currently a 6.5 point spread in favor of the Magic, which came all the way towards Orlando from 3.5. So it shifted about 3 points towards Orlando. 234.5 is that game total. Hasn't really budged. On the San Antonio side, honestly, nothing stands out. The same bodies that have been out for the Spurs are out again for them here. So, we don't have Stephon Castle. We don't have Victor Wembanyama. And everyone else is relatively healthy. There's nobody else of note that's going to miss this one. All the price points for all these guys has really started to reflect really what their value is. So, it's a tough defense in Orlando. It's a back-to-back. Harrison Barnes did score 31 points last night, or tonight, I guess, technically. But he's liable to do that, every once in a while, and you just can't count on it. It's not going to happen again, I don't think. So, much tougher defense here in the Orlando Magic. So, I am not going to be playing probably anybody from this Spurs squad. Nobody even really jumps out as a guy like I might take a stab on him. So, I'm really just not interested at all. And that's kind of rare for this slate. There's at least one guy in each team that I'm kind of interested in. So, that's kind of rare. So, I'm not going to skip every team, don't worry. But for this particular team, that's where I'm landing. On the Orlando side, Jalen Suggs at 7.2K does stand out as an interesting play. He's gotten up 30 shot attempts in the last 2 games. So if you look at his game log here, he got up 13 and 17 shot attempts in the last 2 games, so 30 overall. 21 of those shot attempts from 3 points. So, if that shot, because he's been shooting terribly, he shot 23% around 23% the last 2 games. Actually, include the last 3 games, he's only shot 29% or so and under. And then from 3, he's been dreadful as well, 20% or under in those 3 games as well. So his shot has really not been falling, really been producing in other ways, which, you can still see here. He's still producing roughly 30 DK points, which isn't great at 7.2K salary, but if that shot does fall, there is a really nice ceiling here. So he does have my interest. He's got obviously a lot of opportunity here with Paolo Banchero out, and they're, trusting him with a lot of shot attempts. For better or for worse, they are still winning games, so that should still continue. I see no reason for that to change. And the Spurs, without these pieces here, without Wembanyama and Stephon Castle, they're a little bit worse. Of course, I'm not sharing my screen. Why do I do that every time? It's a little bit worse than the teams they have been playing. So, I do have some interest here in Jalen Suggs. Goga Batadze is another one here on Orlando that I think is fantastic. I think he's a great play. 3.5K, and we can see here he's hit, at least easily 5x value here in 4 out of the 5 of the last games here. So that salary just isn't reflective of what his role is on this team, which is, basically a platoon splitting center minutes with Wendell Carter. Yeah, Wendell Carter gets a few more minutes, maybe 4 or 5 more minutes than Goga Batadze does. But Goga is really, a co-starting center for all intents and purposes next to Wendell Carter. And if something does happen to Wendell Carter, of course, then he has a massive ceiling as well. But he's virtually guaranteed for 5 to 6x value, so I like him a lot here. 20 fantasy points is pretty much going to get us there, and the probability of him hitting that is very high. So Goga does excite me quite a bit here. Portland at Cleveland is a 9.5 point spread in favor of Cleveland, and it's moving towards Cleveland, which makes a lot of sense. 237 is the game total, and it's moving up. Nothing really that fishy here. It is a back-to-back for the Portland Trail Blazers, who did play the Toronto Raptors last night, whatever you want to call it. And it's also the 3rd and 4 nights for this team. So you can't see that in Klingen's page, but you can see it on Jeremy Grant's page, most likely. Yeah. So obviously they had the 1st of December off, but they played the 30th. of November, and they also are playing obviously Tuesday and Wednesday, so the 2nd and 3rd of December. So 3 and 4 nights as well. So yeah, I would look. Shadon Sharp has been out with an injury for a while, so I would look for him to sit in this one. They were capping his minutes, basically around low 20s before this. Let him play 30 minutes last night, but I think that's in anticipation of he's just going to sit tonight, or he's going to play limited minutes again. They're going to cap him at like 20 minutes again. So, that's going to leave minutes for other guys on this roster, of course. And, I think that, we're also still waiting on the Drew Holiday news. So obviously there's still some stuff that we're looking at here. He was supposed to be reevaluated in 1 to 2 weeks for his calf issue, but it's been about a week and a half and we haven't gotten any news. So we may get news on that tomorrow morning or this morning, whatever you want to call it. So we still have a little bit of a shoe to drop here, so we can't get too excited about it. But if Drew remains out and if Shadon Sharp is ruled out, or we get news that he's going to be limited, there are some players we can look at here. The issue is that the players on the bench are just really bad. They're just really not very good. Chris Murray may get some more minutes. He's 4.2K. He's probably the best fantasy producer of these guys, and really it's not great, guys. So fantasy points per minutes wise, it's not really good. Caleb Love is definitely a little bit more intriguing at 4K. But again, you can see, there's a good ceiling here, 32, 46 points, but there's also a really low floor. Let me see if he gets minutes here, like 18 minutes, 13, 14 DK points. He got 26 minutes and 13 DK points. So pretty low floor, but he's only 4K. I mean, I would definitely play Caleb Love if, I know for a fact that Drew Holiday is out and I know Shadon Sharp's going to be out, not play, limited minutes or anything like that. So that is the guy I'm looking at here. Rupert may get minutes as well, but also a pretty bad fantasy producer. So I wouldn't, you can see here, he might get like 15 to 20 minutes and it just wouldn't be enough. We're not going to get a lot of juice. We're not going to get a lot of juice from that squeeze. So, not too interested in these guys. Caleb Love, if those guys are ruled out, I will have a lot of interest in. But with those guys out, Shadon Sharp and Drew Holiday, if they both do sit, you can also rely on the top dogs here to really take over and produce as well. Denny, Avija, and Jeremy Grant. Those guys should continue to get a lot of the workload and to even absorb more of the usage here. So Jeremy Grant at 6.1K probably would be my favorite play of those two, but Denny Avija at 9.4 is still fine too, and he had a really good game last night as well. All right, moving on to the Cleveland side, though. Really the only thing that sticks out to me here is that Evan Mobley should not be 8.7K. We have no Jared Allen. Evan Mobley didn't have a really good game in the last one, but they played against the Pacers and they really didn't need him to play really well or anything like that. He only played 28 minutes, so he still put up 30.8 points. So DK points. So 53 DK points in the first game without Jared Allen is what I'm looking at here against Boston. I expect this game to be more competitive. I know Portland hasn't been super great without Drew Holiday, but they did, they are competitive. They keep things competitive and interesting. So I think Evan Mobley at 8.7K is someone you have to seriously consider and look at for sure. No Jared Allen. Anytime any of these players is out, we have to look at Jalen Tyson. You actually saw him in that winning lineup I just showed you from the last podcast I did. And his price hasn't changed dramatically since then. Let's see. It was and that day it was 3.1K. So actually it has changed dramatically since then. But it's 5.7K. It came up almost 1,000 since his last game. But he did absolutely explode. He had 51 DK points in that game. But it was against Indiana. It's really a grain of salt here. I don't think he's must roster. I really don't. I think people are going to think he's must roster. They're going to really go out of their way to get him and jam him into lineups. And that kind of excites me because I think it's kind of a mistake, right? I think just because of that ownership piece, I'm probably going to be fading him because there's just going to be so many people on him. And of course, there's a world where Jalen Tyson, doesn't have a good game. 27 minutes, 29.5 DK points. I mean, that's fine, but it's not great. 31 minutes, 30.8 DK points. It's fine. It's not great, right? I mean, we can see maybe about a fantasy point per minute, right? 33, 34.8 DK points in 33 minutes here. Here we have a 28 minutes with 6.5 DK points. So I just think there is a possibility that this guy, does not produce and he's going to be so highly owned. It's going to give me an edge just to fade him. So I probably won't have him. I think he's still a fine play. He was 10 of 13 from the field last game, guys. 10 of 13 from the field, 4 or 5 from beyond the arc. Again, it was the Indiana Pacers that they played. So a little bit of grain of salt there. I think he's fine. I just don't think he's a smash. Moving on to Denver, Indiana. Speaking of those Indiana Pacers. So it's a minus 7.5 point spread in favor of Denver, of course. But it is actually moving against Denver, the line is, from 10.5 it opened at. Despite the fact that 3/4 of the bets are on Denver. So a little bit interesting there, but I can explain in a minute here why I think that is the case. And it will make a lot of sense. So I don't think it's so super shady. I don't think it's like reverse line movement. But definitely interesting. 236 is the total, and it's moving down despite a vast majority of bets on the over. So we know something's up here. There's something for us to look at. And I will tell you what that is. It's that Jamal Murray is questionable, right? Jamal Murray is questionable for this one. With that line movement that we're seeing, we just have to assume that he's going to be sitting out. I mean, they're playing the Pacers. It makes sense. Give him some rest. He messed up his ankle. He sprained his ankle in that game on Monday. So, couple days, give him some rest. I'm not sure when Denver plays next, but give him a little bit. Give him the day off. Makes a lot of sense here, and that makes things interesting. Things suddenly get really interesting because, if he does sit, it was Jalen Pickett that started the last game in his stead. The last time that he missed a game, but he only managed about 17, 18 minutes. And he didn't do anything, of course. He didn't do crap against it was against the Pacers as well. That's kind of crazy. Against the Pacers, he didn't do anything. He was min salary. Excuse me. But we can expect him to start here again. But what's interesting about this is that in that game on the 8th of November, where Jamal Murray sat, we also had Christian Brown was active for that game. As well as Julian Strawther. And we don't have Julian Strawther. Julian Strawther is not active. He's currently out. Let's see, with a lower back issue. He's been out for a while. Okay. Christian Brown, obviously out. Going to be out for a while as well. Right? 6 weeks. Left ankle sprain. Ooh, bummer. So, in addition to Jamal Murray possibly being out, and if he is ruled out, we also have those guys ruled out. So, all of a sudden, those minutes for Pickett go from 17, 18 to 25 to 30. I think Pickett's a play. I think a lot of people are going to look at the game log and do the first step there and go look at the game. Okay, well, who filled in for Jamal Murray in that last game? Oh, it was Pickett. Oh, he only played 17 minutes and he didn't do anything. And it was the same team. And you're not going to be that dumb because you listen to this podcast and you're not dumb. I know you're not. So you're going to say, okay, yes, but also additional bodies are missing. So Jalen Pickett, I think, is a good play. I really do. He may be a necessity for them. But you can also, of course, look at some of these other plays that people are going to glom onto and play. Tim Hardaway Jr., people will play 4.4K. Of course, we know what the deal is there. Very boomer bust player. He's going to hit his threes or he's not. Doesn't do a lot besides shoot the ball. So, maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. Bruce Brown, a little bit safer of a play, but he's 4.9K. I just don't love the price tag there. And he's not really a fancy producer. You can see, his recent game log here. Not a fancy producer. But they do have some additional, opportunity here with those guys down. Cam Johnson will be asked to do more, but he's 5.8K, and I don't think that his ceiling is insanely high. We saw a ceiling game here against the Spurs, 44.5 DK points. That's going to be a rarity, right? He had 34.8 against Sacramento. So, this is Indiana. Maybe he pops off. He's somebody I guess you can consider, but he's not somebody I'm necessarily looking at. I would rather play Pickett and just take my chances with that low price tag. So, if Cam Johnson's shot's not falling, same with Tim Hardaway Jr., it's just they're not going to hit that value for you. So there's just too much risk there for me, in my opinion, with those price tags. Those price tags are just too high. Peyton Watson probably also will get double-digit shot attempts. Of course, with all these bodies down, Aaron Gordon also still down, of course. So he's been getting a ton of shot attempts. I was just looking at that game. 22 shot attempts and 12 3-point attempts back on the 24th. 14 shot attempts in the last game. Before that, for whatever reason, only 4 shot attempts, but 11 shot attempts on the 28th of November as well. So I think he's pretty much locked to get double-digit shot attempts. I don't have an issue with that. He's going to get 4 or 5 3-point attempts at minimum, and hopefully hit those as well. Could be in line for a couple of blocks. So definitely a strong play as well. I like Peyton Watson over Cam Johnson. So if you're going to play a couple of these Denver Nuggets, which I think you absolutely can, with Joel Murray is ruled out, I probably go Peyton Watson and Pickett. Of course, we always have to consider Nikola Jokic, who is probable for this one as well. Huge triple-double against Dallas in the last one. You just have to wonder, playing against the Pacers, is he really motivated to put up big numbers? Is he going to be needed to put up big numbers? No Jamal Murray, that helps definitely with his floor, where we know what we're getting here. So I think, he's a good cash play for sure. Probably a lock in cash play as long as we can get value to get to him, which I think on a 9-game slate we shouldn't have a problem doing, especially when more news opens up more value, because it will, almost guaranteed on such a big slate. So yeah, but for GPPs, I don't think it's a necessity, and I am playing GPPs, of course. So I probably won't end up with Nikola Jokic, but I can see where you might get there. For the Pacers, it's pretty gross. There's not a lot going on here. The last game, Garrison Matthews saw 25 minutes. Okay, that's how bad it's gotten. He's 3.5K now. I'm not going to do it. It's not going to happen. Nembar's going to play. McConnell, we don't know what his role is going to be. Ben Shepherd probably will play minutes, but he just doesn't produce. 6 and 9 DK points in the last 2 games. He's not a usage guy. Mathurin will play and shoot a bunch of shots, but will they fall? He's pretty much non-existent in their last game, which is kind of interesting. But Jarris Walker might be on the menu, right? He's been getting minutes. But who do we trust here? Your guesses are good, man. It's just such a mess. Pascal Siakam, of course, always a possibility. Pretty much locked in the minutes, unless it becomes a terrible blowout. But it's not good. It's not a good matchup. So I don't think there's any reason on a 9-game slate to mess with the Indiana side. I know I've been on Jay Huff last several slates, but I think this is where I call it quits when he goes up against Nikola Jokic. I don't want any part of that. To be honest with you guys, I don't want Isaiah Jackson either. Don't trust that at all. So, yeah, we're just going to fade the Pacers. We're going to play all the Nuggets and fade the Pacers. I think that's the best call here. Clippers at Atlanta. Atlanta is a -3 point favorite. They're a 3-point favorite, but it's moving against them despite most bets being on them, which is interesting. Total is 228 and climbing. So yeah, that movement is fishy for sure. Because if you look at Atlanta, outside of KP being ruled out, maybe the line opened, several days ago or a couple days ago, and it shifted since then. I don't really know why this line would open sooner than other lines do. Most lines don't open until the day before usually. So we pretty much already knew KP is going to be out. He's been out. So I really don't think that would affect the line. And there's really nothing else here that would affect that line that much. I mean, Trae Young's been out. So the Clippers haven't been particularly good. So I don't know. It's very fishy line movement there. 228 game total and climbing. I think I said that, but if I didn't, there it is. On the Clippers side, I still do like John Collins at 5.5K with his new role as the backup center. That last game was really pretty fluky. It was not good. Ty Lue, for whatever reason, decided to pull the starters a minute into the third quarter because I guess a message or something. They were getting absolutely steamrolled by the Heat. They did end up making it look competitive in the end with the final score, but it was pretty much a spanking from the Heat on the Clippers. So, he only ended up playing 25 minutes in that one, but he had been getting 33 plus in the 3 before that, and then 30 minutes the game before that as well. So, no reason we don't expect 30 plus minutes of John Collins here at 5.5K. I think that's fine. It's not like a lock for me, but it's pretty darn good. Other than that, on the Clippers side, I don't love a lot. I mean, Bogdan Bogdanovic may be back. Who's an interesting guy at 4.4K. We'll have to see. He's been out. Actually, no, he's already been ruled out. My apologies. So he will be out still for this one. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of ugly. I don't think this is a spot to really play any of these guys. James Harden, Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's only 8.1K, so maybe. But it's just not, it doesn't feel like a good spot for me. Really don't like Zubac at 8K. Not looking good. On the Atlanta side, again, KP's ruled out. So, Mohamed Gay is a guy that I've been gravitating towards and playing as a pivot off of everyone playing Onyeka Okongwu at 7.5K. I'm just not going to do it. Yeah, he's had some really explosive games. Yes, he's a good player. No doubt about it. Centers are always pretty consistent with their scoring output. But, the Clippers pace things down so much. Like, it's going to be such a slower pace than the other games that are going to be on the slate. And I just don't, 7.5K is just too much. If you're going to play somebody, which I probably won't play anybody from this game, honestly. But for me, it's going to be Mohamed Gay. Like, I would play him. So, yeah, nothing else really looks good to me here. Moving on to the Charlotte Hornets and the New York Knickerbockers. 9.5 point spread in favor of New York, but it's moving against them despite nearly 90% of bets being on them. So that's a little fishy. 237.5 game total, and it's moving down against the bets which are on the over. So fishy line movement. One thing I can say is it is a back-to-back for the Knicks, but nothing else that would really indicate that line movement should make sense. So this is a very efficient line movement. For the Hornets, I think it's interesting to note that LaMelo Ball would have very likely, and yes, 100% likelihood, cleared 30 minutes last game had the Hornets kept it close with the Brooklyn Nets. He sat the last minute or two because they just simply gave up the game. It was classic two bad teams and one just being out-batting the other. So unfortunately, he did not clear that 30-minute mark, but he was ever so close, and I think he will here. So he is a very interesting play. Obviously, he has a very fantasy-friendly game, and we saw earlier in the season. I mean, this guy can absolutely pop off with incredible, fantasy output. And he's only 8.5K, so I do have some interest in LaMelo Ball. Definitely see him as a risky, risk-reward type play. But I think if we can project him for 30-plus minutes, we're going to be higher than the field is on him. So I think LaMelo Ball makes a lot of sense here. Con Knuppel, he's the guy that benefits the most from Brandon Miller being out. I mean, obviously LaMelo benefits as well, but it's probably Khan that benefits the most here. He's 6.7K, so I don't love the price tag. I haven't really been playing him all season, so it's like really no reason to go there now that his price tag is reflective of what he does on the floor. Because he's just not exactly cheap, right? He's almost 7K. I mean, to hit 5X there, you have to put 35 plus, and we can see here, he had a stretch of, 6 games at least in a row where he did not hit that. That's in the beginning of the season. Sorry. Before that, though, he didn't hit it in the last game. He didn't hit it in these games. So, there's no guarantees here, right? It's kind of shaky. I mean, I would have preferred him when he started out in the, sub 5 or mid 5K range. Right now he's 6.7. So it's just that price tag that just the risk just doesn't make sense for the, quote unquote reward here. Cyan James is getting a ton of run and doing absolutely nothing with it. So I'd love to play this kid because he's playing, almost 30 minutes a game in the last 2 games, but he's not doing anything with them. Not doing anything. So how can I? How can I ask you? Kalkbrenner always intrigued me, but I just need Diabate to go away. Just go into a hole somewhere and never return because I do think this, he's definitely got some upside here. We saw it earlier in the season where he put up, some 30 plus DK point games, but he's pretty much capped at 25, 26 minutes. He's not getting more than that because Diabate is there and also playing decently well. Not to take away from Diabate, but they're basically splitting those minutes and, killing each other's value. So nothing to see there. On the Knicks side, again, it's back-to-back. Another guy that's just been getting major burn, but intrigues me more than Cyan James, is Miles McBride. Excuse me. He's also a little bit more expensive. He's 5.4K. And we have seen, he does have some ability to put up some points. But for some reason, the usage just has not been there for Deuce this season. Obviously, this is not the Tom Thibodeau, Deuce McBride that we've grown accustomed to, where if he got on the floor, we can pretty much guarantee he was going to jack up some shots and hopefully, give us a ceiling game. That ceiling just seems to be non-existent this season. So I want to get excited about Miles McBride, but I just can't. The usage isn't there. I think Jalen Brunson is definitely due for a bounce back here, and this is obviously a good spot against the Charlotte Hornets, but he was absolutely dreadful tonight against the Boston Celtics. 6 of 21 from the field, 1 of 8 from 3. Just a very, very bad game. End up losing that game, the Knicks did, snapping their 4-game win streak. So I would expect Jalen Brunson to get back on schedule here. Not an amazing game, but he probably is going to have a good game. And I think, the other thing is Josh Hart for this team has been on an absolute tear. He didn't have a good game, just like Brunson didn't tonight. But in this one, he may be closer to that 40 to 50 range that we've been seeing for 4 straight games before this last we call it a dud, but he almost reached 40 points again. So this guy's been on fire, been playing really well. Obviously, the Hornets are a fantastic matchup. The only thing that gives me pause here is how well he's shooting it from 3. 4 of 6, 4 of 7, 4 of 7. That can't stick for anybody, even the best shooters in the league, which Josh Hart certainly is not. So that shooting may regress to the mean, but we can pretty much book him, lock him in for 35 points. He is almost 8K though. So I think he's an intriguing play. I think he's an interesting play, but I don't think he's a fantastic play. Brooklyn Nets at Chicago Bulls, my Chicago Bulls. The Bulls are 8-point favorites, and it's heading towards Chicago in line with the bets. 232 is the game total and moving down despite bets on the over. So I think the reason for that is because there's a couple of key pieces on the Bulls that are out for this one, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But for the Nets, let's talk about the Nets first. And honestly, there's not a lot to talk about. Well, your guess is as good as mine, right? Who's going to play on this team? Egor Gemin, right? How do you say this guy's name? I gotta figure out how to say this guy's name, but Igor Demon, the Demon, right? I don't think he's trustworthy. He had 22.8 points in that last game where everybody in the world was on him. His price came up $700. So I'm not into him. Tyrese Martin, they won't like let him play a full allotment of minutes. He's just constantly capped at 25 minutes or under. It's kind of the best you can hope for is like 25 minutes. So can't trust him. Can't trust Ben Seraph, that's for sure. Nope. 29 minutes, and then 18 minutes before that, he was not even in the rotation. Played 25 minutes early in the season. I mean, it's minutes all over the place. Zaire Williams can't trust. Terrence Mann is out for this one. But even so, I just can't trust these people. Michael Porter Jr., I can trust. I can't even trust Noah Clowney. Because now Danny Wolf is starting to get minutes and perhaps eat away at Noah Clowney. Or at least Nicholas Claxton. I think you can trust Claxton. I think you can trust Michael Porter Jr. Maybe you can trust Clowney. He's a little bit shaky there. Yeah. But for the Bulls, like I said, a few key pieces out, which makes the Bulls quite interesting on this one. There is no Kobe White and there is no Kevin Huerter. Both those guys are already ruled out. So Trey Jones. Trey Jones at 5.3K looks like a fantastic play against a terrible Brooklyn defense. Idison at 5.8K also looks like a fantastic play against a terrible Brooklyn defense. And of course, you can play these other guys. You play Buzelos. You can play Nikola Vucevic. Interestingly enough, we may see the first season debut action from Zach Collins in this one, which totally kills, any Jalen Smith love, and it kills Zach Collins love too, because they're not going to take Jalen Smith out of the rotation. Both those guys are questionable though, so maybe Zach Collins gets ruled in and Jalen Smith gets ruled out. I still don't think I can trust him enough to play him even at 3.4K, but he is a good fantasy producer. Zach Collins is. So a guy we need to keep our eye on the situation. I'm not going to play those guys, but I am going to be watching and checking that box score after to see, how the minutes were broken down, if they're both active, and if they aren't, how does Zach Collins look? Which I really don't need to see because I already know he's going to be able to produce. He's a good fantasy producer. Real life basketball player, he's okay. He's fine. It's not great or anything, but yeah, probably takes a few games for Collins get back up to speed anyway. So maybe that's what we're looking for there. Sacramento at Houston is definitely going to be interesting. Excuse me. We have a 15.5 point spread, the largest spread on the slate in favor of Houston, despite a vast majority of the bets being on the Sacramento Kings. 230.5 is the game total, so not super enticing, but not super low either. And it's moving down despite bets being on the over. Could be because on the Kings, the Schroeder and Monk are both questionable. Could be that just there's such a bad vibe around the Kings. But people are betting them, supposedly, from my data that I'm looking at. But you guys know, if Schroeder and Monk are both ruled out, or even just one of them's ruled out, I have to have some, at least minor interest in Keon Ellis at 3.1K. I called his last good game on the 26th in the Discord. I said, I'm playing this guy. He ended up playing 23 minutes against Phoenix. He had 22.5 DK points. He was a great play at minimum salary. He's near minimum salary again. I mean, he's not going to. The Kings are not going to win games with him. He's not going to win them games. That's not how much he's going to turn this. But he is a better play next to Zach LaVine or a DeMar DeRozan than a Dennis Schroeder is or a Malik Monk is. Play this guy. I'm hoping that both those guys are out because I will play Malik Monk and nobody else will because they'll be too scared. will be crying and shaking their little space boots. But I do think it's nice. Levine at 6.8K is just sad. It really just is. This guy was like made 8Ks at least, right? High 7s at least for the Bulls. DeMar, 6.9K, also pretty sad. But I still can't go. I can't go to those guys. The center situation here is something to keep our eye on. It's very interesting because Eubanks has been terrible. Drew Eubanks has been completely awful in his minutes. So they've been playing Precious Achiuwa a lot. And then the guy I'm more interested in that I think has a higher upside is Maxime Renaud. And he's been getting more minutes here, 22, 23 minutes. You know, if that continues and we start to see more of a split here in that center position, this is a guy we need to look at more here. You know, against Houston in this supersized lineup, Alperen Sengun, and I think Steven Adams is actually out for this one, but he's questionable. Is he questionable? He's questionable. He's questionable. So he may be out, maybe in, but they still have Capella anyway. So this is not a good matchup. This is not the matchup playing him in. But he's a guy we have to keep our eye on for sure. For sure. So just something to be aware of, something to look. Nothing really sticks out on the Houston side, honestly. You know, it's kind of par for the course here now that Durant's back in action. Durant himself is really the only guy I have any interest in. He's 8.3K, so the price is nice. And he's starting to kind of look a little bit more like his old self, putting up some near 50 DK point numbers. You know, nothing super exciting, but it is a nice, you know, a nice matchup here against the Kings. If we do play, you know, Durant, maybe we do a little bit of a gain stack here, and we play, you know, maybe we play Zach LaVine on the way back, something like that. You know, thinking that somebody keeps this Kings team competitive without Sabonis. I don't love it though. Don't love it. Detroit at Milwaukee. Detroit is a 3-point favorite, and it's not budging at all. The spread's not budging despite a ton of bets being on Detroit, or at least a ton of the percentage. I don't know exactly how many bets in total there are, but nearly 90% of the bets that are out there, there may not be a lot, are on Detroit. And this is a 230.5 game total again, and it's moving down despite bets being on the over. So not a great over-under either for this one. On Detroit, the last time I think this is in Discord, I was discussing it. It's been like almost 2 weeks since I've done a pod, so it's probably the Discord. I had questions about who would benefit the most from Duncan Robinson being out. My theory was Jaden Ivey would finally get his full minutes. That did not happen. Only 14 minutes in that one. It was Dennis Jenkins. Dennis Jenkins had 27 minutes. Didn't play particularly well. But that is something to file away in case Duncan Robinson does get ruled out again here. Not a bad spot. You could go back to Dennis Jenkins. Karis LeVert, as I predicted and guessed, is pretty much capped on his minutes. He's going to get 25 maximum, which just isn't enough for Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert needs volume to really do anything. He is only 4.5K, which is nice. If he ends up, getting hot, he can absolutely pay off that price tag. But I think it's Dennis Jenkins, if Duncan Robinson's ruled out, is the play here. Plays I like most, though, here against Milwaukee. This is going to be an interesting game. Again, 3-point spread. Total's not amazing, but it doesn't matter because this is going to be a really competitive, interesting game. Austin Thompson at 5.7K stands out to me as a very decent play. And you guys know I love playing centers against Giannis and against this Milwaukee Bucks team. So Jalen Duren does stand up as well. 7.9K. Obviously, Miles Turner. Those are wrenching into things a little bit, but I still think Jalen Duren is a solid play. He's going to have low ownership too. On the Milwaukee side, Kevin Porter Jr. returned a few games ago and promptly got hurt again. And he's questionable for this one. So, if he does sit, It makes things a little bit more interesting. But I don't think it really affects a lot, to be honest with you. AJ Green has been getting a ton of burn, a ton of run here. 31 minutes, 23, 39, 36, 25, 28, 36. So he's interesting, but the thing about him is similar to, I can't remember what I was talking about earlier, but if you look at these shooting numbers, they're absolutely insane and not sustainable, right? And kids shooting 4 of 6 from the floor, 5 of 7, 6 of 12, 4 of 6. That's just not sustainable. So a little bit of fool's gold there, I think. He is interesting, but I don't think we can go there. I do think a KPJ absence will solidify Ryan Rollins, who I do like here quite a bit. Not a great matchup, of course, against the Detroit Pistons, who are a very good defensive team. But Rollins can mix it up, man. He's again league leader in deflections of the NBA. I think I put that out in a tweet thread that I did about a DFS slate. 5.4 deflections per game, at least last time I checked, which led the NBA. So having a really great season, really coming into his own, really showing a lot of growth. It got to be a candidate for most improved player, I would think. But yeah, I think again with no Kevin Porter, that really solidifies his floor. Is the ceiling there to justify playing him in all our lineups or something like that? I don't know about that. But he's nice. I like the floor. Of course, Giannis is probable, so that kind of caps our ceiling there with Ryan Rollins as well. Giannis is always on the table, of course, especially in a competitive game like this. But I don't know. Give me a little bit of vibes that he just doesn't want to be there or something, right? People are getting that. He wants to be traded or whatever now. To the Bulls. Huh, right. Miami at Dallas. Miami is a 4-point spread favorite here, and it's moving that way. 239.5 is the total, and it's moving up, which is interesting because Dallas is involved here, who is a good defensive team, and they have Anthony Davis back as well. So it's interesting that total keeps inching up. It's because Miami plays with a lot of pace. I get that. And, it could be that the Mavs are playing with a higher pace as well. I haven't looked into that. I probably should, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But Ryan Nembhard taking over as a point guard. Anywho, on the Heat side, we have some interesting things going on here because we do have Norm Powell and Pell Larson questionable for this one. And if one or two of those guys sits, that's going to help out, of course, Andrew Wiggins, right, at 6.1K. But we will also get more Jaime Jaquez Jr. at 5.6K, and he may be the play here. Or Simone Fontecchio if you really want to get, risky at 3.8K. So, Dallas, again, is a pretty decent defensive team. I'm not going over the moon to play these guys, but I think Jaime Jaquez, especially if both those guys get ruled out, that's a lot of minutes being vacated. Jaime probably gets 25 to 30. And we saw earlier this season what he does in that. Obviously no Bam Adebayo in those games, so a little bit of a different situation here. But at 5.6K, he doesn't need to produce that much to hit 5X value for us. So I do think he's very much on the table here. Outside of that, not a whole lot. On the Dallas side, again, Ryan Nembhard has won this point guard battle. They're winning games. He's been the point guard. He played 35 minutes last game. Brandon Williams and D'Angelo Russell, much to the chagrin of my dynasty leagues that I have those guys in, are pretty much on the wayside here. For the time being, I mean, that could change down the line, but it seems like for now that they're seeing success. That's probably going to stick. And of course, he just had a 50-point game, so I expect everyone to be on him. But his price did not come up a lot. It only came up 700, and it's still very cheap, 4.4K. And they're playing against Miami, and the total is going up. There's a lot of stuff here to like. No. Is he going to shoot 12 of 14 from the field again? No. I expect him to shoot more like 6 for 11, right? Not 7, not even 7 for 11. Maybe even 4 for 11. But the assist should be there. Should get a few rebounds. Hopefully get a steal or two. And he's going to shoot threes. So hopefully he's like, 1 of 5 or 2 of 5 from threes. 4.4K. I like this play a lot. Cooper Flagg back to his normal role, has been absolutely killing it, of just being a straight up scoring guard. Only a couple of assists in the last couple of games. Ryan Nembhard in there, right? May even look at his assist unders if it's still up there. If he's still at like 4.5 or 5.5, we'll see. I'm not sure what it's going to be set at. Probably lower than that. But playing really well, shooting the ball really well, starting to look like the guy that we expected coming into the league. Told you I was off of him for a while, and now that's not the case. Things have turned around. So he's interesting. Don't think he's a must play though. PJ Washington is also questionable for this one, and if he does sit again, the guy that's been playing a lot of minutes that should continue is Najee Marshall. And he has a nice game as for fantasy purposes as well. I think he becomes a very interesting play if we get news that PJ Washington is going to sit. But my main question on this team, with Daniel, especially with Daniel Gafford questionable as well for this one, why in the world is Anthony Davis 8.8K? Explain that to me. Somebody out there. This guy can dominate games. Gets Miami. Okay, great. He's got Bam Adebayo. I am not afraid of that. Anthony Davis has something to prove. Either he wants this team to succeed with him on it, or he wants them to trade him to a contender. He's got something to play for. We know this guy's a prima donna and likes to go back to the locker room 8 times a game. But when push comes to shove, he is a fantastic basketball player, a fantastic defender. Several blocks are on the table here. Assists. As long as he's remaining engaged, this guy can dominate basketball games. He's the weirdest player to watch because he feels like he could just dominate any game he wanted to, but he's just like not interested in doing that. Some people are just like that, man. Like they just don't have that like killer instinct type deal. So, but I do think Anthony Davis is a fantastic play here as well, especially if Gafford's ruled out. He's going to be a no-doy. Everybody plays and play. But as it stands, here are my strong plays. Of course, as I said, these can always change and are likely to change, especially on a 9-game slate as different things open up. But right now, the guys I'm looking at are Jalen Pickett. I do believe that Jamal Murray is going to be out for this one. And if that is the case, Pickett's going to be the one that picks up all of those minutes. Trey Jones at the shooting guard position with no Kobe White or Kevin Huerter. I do think that he's a very solid play as well. I would assume also solid, but I think Trey Jones at the $500 cheaper price point, and also the fact that he's just, I won't say a better player, a more offensive-minded player and a more aggressive offensive-minded player. He's going to take more shots than Io, most likely. Those are the reasons I like him over Io. But I think either one is fine. Anthony Davis, I think, is a smash play, whether or not Daniel Gafford plays. I really don't care. But if Gafford's out, I think everyone's going to have him. I kind of hope Gafford plays. Goga Batadze. I don't think his salary should be this low. I think 5 to 6x is pretty much a guarantee with a salary at just 3.5K, especially against a Spurs team without Victor Wembanyama. They're going to be rolling out Luke Cornett, who is not really that imposing or threatening, in my opinion. And then my last one is Ryan Nembhard. clearly the starting point guard now for the Dallas Mavericks, who are starting to turn things around slowly but surely. Don't call me Shirley. And, has some weapons around him that I think those assists will for sure be there with Anthony Davis also on this, healthy and on this team, and Cooper Flagg shooting the ball well. So Jalen Pickett, Trey Jones, Anthony Davis, Goga Patadze, and Ryan Nembhard are my solid, strong must-plays for right now, which is the night before the Wednesday slate. That's going to do it for me, guys, though. I'm going to head to bed. You all have a wonderful one. Until next time, go get that money.